Welcome back. We're going to look at creating our sprue system for our wax piece. You will have your wax piece that is weighed. Once you've done your check on those calculations, and they're written on the base that you choose, the appropriate size, go ahead and get you some yellow wax. That's going to be what we use for our main sprue. And then you will also be using some blue wax wire for your vents and your gates. So we're going to start with the main sprue. The idea is you want the metal to come in a way that's user-friendly to the metal. You don't want the metal to the liquid metal to come in and have to make a left or right-hand turn. So you're going to be using this as a tunnel for that metal to get into your piece. So the flattest, widest part of your design that does not affect your textural elements or any of your detail work. So this particular piece, flattest, widest would be right in here. A lot of students will kind of come in and attach it without any thought to how it's attached to the piece. So you really, really want to keep in mind the fact that when the metal comes up through this channel, it should effortlessly flow either direction into the piece. So this will be attached at an angle that dissects your piece in half, and not necessarily equal, but weight-wise. So if I were going to sprue something like this, for example, flattest, widest spot, base, a lot of students would come in here, but if that metal comes in, it has to take a right or left-hand turn, and it does not want to do that. So this particular piece, you will end up sprueing from a corner, comme ça, and you're going to attach the wax to your piece like this. Reminder, the wax is eventually going to be sawed off and you won't see any of that. It's just a means for that metal to get in so that we can cast your piece. Something like this, which is a little bulkier, might require us to create a double, so a raft, to attach just right in here. When we attach that, keep in mind that we don't want to attach it in a way where there's any blue wax or brown wax or whatever you're casting below where they meet. So I would not attach it at that angle or that angle. It would want to be here, so where everything up here is above that. Sometimes we put two on there. So on this particular one, I may end up sprueing in two different places, so I may end up having a V come in there and in here in order for that to happen. Sometimes your piece is so small that we might have to cut this in half or kind of pinch it down. It's pretty soft wax. Pinch that down in order for it to be small enough to attach where we want it to attach. So I'm going to go ahead and do a ring. So I'm going to be working on this. I'm going to take my base and use it as a method of providing a kind of a stop once I attach that. So your yellow wax right here, again, identify the angle at which you're going to attach it. So if I attached it right here, I run into trouble because it has to go that way. So what I want to do is kind of attach it here. So I'm going to go ahead and just with my fingernail, or an X-Acto, you could do either. I just made a 45-degree angle-ish on there, and I'm going to go ahead and attach it like this so that the bottom part of the yellow wax is going to align with the bottom part of the blue wax. So in order to do that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to use heat. So I have one of my heat pens, and some of them look a little bit different. If you're using one of these, once you have it, turn it on, it turns on. So on and off right here, it turns on really quickly. When you're not using it, turn it off. And this should be about 3/4. So that's all the way off. That's all the way on, and about 3/4. If you have it too hot, all it's going to do is just melt the wax to nothingness. If you don't have it hot enough, it's just going to kind of not heat the wax the way you need it heated. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on and take this wax tip right here. As I come in here, I barely touch that, and I now have some liquid yellow wax right in here. I'm going to let gravity just rip that off so that you can see that. If you overheat, this will not structurally be sound anymore. So all you want to do is heat and then go. You don't want to overheat this. The other thing to be careful for is the dripping wax. If you get your hand underneath this, or if you touch it, just get over and get some cold water on it. If you get any burning wax on it, you have to get that wax off, because if it stays on, the damage will keep going. So you get that off directly to the water, get some cold water on it, and let me know, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it. And I think the easiest way to attach this is to provide that kind of stop for your piece, and that looks like it's a little wobbly, so we'll just use a flask right here. And I'm going to come in, and I'm going to heat the yellow, and I'm going to put it right up against the blue wax, just maybe 1 millimeter off. I'm going to go ahead and heat the yellow wax, and as I bring my pen out, I just put the yellow towards the blue. My hand is braced up against this, because if I'm moving at all, and even when I'm talking I'm moving, if it's cooling off and moving, it will not provide a good seal. So to the yellow wax, onto the blue. I'm going to blow on that and just hold that for about 30 seconds, and then I let go. I already know that didn't quite seal, so we're going to go back and do it again. I want to go all the way through. And then let that cool. And I didn't even need to use that. It wasn't up against it because I had some wax holding it in place. So I'm going to loosen that up. This is still pretty fragile right here. So I'm going to turn this down just a smidge. I'd rather you working by the vents. For the video, we're not quite by the vents right now, but it's easier if you're working by the vents. I'm just going to seal that outside edge. Blow on it. You'll notice that it turns a little bit clearer when it is hot. So now I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to seal it a little bit more. Blow on it, let it cool. Seal it a little bit more, and I go all the way around. If you did not seal it all the way through to begin with, you can be in trouble when you go to cast. So it's really important you go all the way through the middle on your first pass. So you're kind of creating this funnel-like area into your piece itself. So once I have that attached right here, I'm going to take a look at it, and it's kind of straight up right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the angle on it. This is soft enough right now. I'm just going to move that a little bit, and now I need to reseal. If I over reseal, sorry, that didn't make any sense. If I go through there and heat all the way through it, then it's just going to fall off. So you only do a little bit at a time, blow on it, let that cool. At this stage in the game, you don't need this to be that long, so I'm going to go ahead and heat that off at about 1/4 inch. And then I'm ready to take my base, and as a reminder, your name's on it, your class period, and your casting weight is all ready to go in permanent marker. And this piece itself is going to get attached to your sprue button. If that's got some stuff on it, I can just kind of smooth that out a little bit, or if it doesn't have any, I can add some in there. So I'm going to attach this about right there. If I hold this, I'm going to stack my fingers. And the same idea is I'm going to put it through the yellow wax, melt up where it's attaching and where it's attached. Hold it in place. Blow on that until it is not quite as clear and liquidy. I'm going to go ahead and let go of that. I'm going to let that cool a little bit, and then I'm going to do the same thing that I did when it met. I'm just going to go ahead and flare it. And the idea is it's not too far away, it's not too close. So this might be on the longer edge. I would probably lower this a little bit. So the idea is once you have your mold around here and the metal is going into that, if it takes too long to get into your piece, it's starting to cool down as it goes through that channel. So you've now completed your main sprue, and we're going to go ahead and tuck that away and turn that off, and now we're moving on to gates and vents.